Welcome, everybody. So good to see you all again. Some of you are familiar faces, some of you are new, but we're so glad that you could join us today in our Becoming Wise in the Age of AI event. This is our fourth one, and we're also this is we're going to kind of take a pause on these for a little bit for kind of the summer. We'll be coming back strong in September. But I'll actually put a link in here right now so you can sign up for the next one. But we'll be sending reminders as well. But again, so good to see all of you. I'm gonna hand it over to Jeff here to kind of get us grounded, welcome us all here, and share a message. And then we have some great questions that were submitted, and we're looking forward to a really good conversation and discussion today. But I hand it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Patrick. It's so good to see everyone, to be with you. I want to bring us to a moment of stillness here together in our crazy world. So I'm going to remind you, take your phone, put it on airplane mode like I just did. Close out your notifications real quick on your screen if you need to. And let's arrive here together in the breath. Sit up straight, get comfortable. Maybe close your eyes, keep them open if you want, and let's just breathe here together. An in breath together and an out breath. An in breath that helps us arrive into our bodies, and an out breath to just let go. I want to remind you that in your stillness as a human being, you're 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 most yourself in those moments where you're still. You're closest to your essence when we're still. And when we're still in community like this, maybe we're even closer. Let's continue to just breathe together, to settle into our bodies, to arrive here in the space, to hold the joy and the excitement, the pure happiness in being alive, and also to hold the grief and the sadness that's in the room. Whenever we're with other humans, we know that everyone is struggling with something. That is the human condition that comes for us all. Take another deep in breath. Let it go. And feel free to, open your eyes or arrive in this space together. Like I said, stillness is where we are most close to our essence. And one of the challenges in the age of AI, or in the digital age that we live in, is that we are constantly bombarded with notifications and messages, requests, demands. And our nervous systems weren't set up for this. They weren't necessarily set up to handle this. So, if anything, over the next 53 minutes, if we can just sit together with other humans, discuss AI and living and being alive, existing in 2026, I think it will be time well spent. And I think the more that you're committed to letting go of the notifications, letting go of whatever's coming next in your day, and just being here now, this is the right place to be. And I think the right frame for us to open in. I've been thinking a lot about impermanence lately, and then so I want to talk about that a little bit. Um, if you've read the book, the last book written by a human, Becoming Wise in the Age of AI, I start the book on the Ganges River in Varanasi, India. And I want to tell a story, kind of paraphrase the story that I share here. And again, I'm going to close my eyes again just to try to put myself there. Feel free to join me in that or not. Um, but my wife Sally and I arrived in Varanasi, India. We were excited to go to the Ganges River for the nightly festival. We jumped in an Uber, got closer to the downtown festival area, and it just became a crush of people, animals, sights, sounds. We actually were stopped and had to jump out of the car. And as we did, I felt very embodied, kind of like I do now. There was chaos all around me. I'm sure you can feel that in your life every day. Varanasi was the most chaotic place I had ever been. And I've been fortunate to be like in New York Times, or sorry, in Times Square during the New Year, this Shibuya crossing in Japan, Hong Kong, when work gets out. Those are all chaotic, busy places, but this was even louder. My senses were like assaulted by sounds, smells, and I slowed down. And as Sally and I made our way to these stairs that kind of exist at this festival area at the base of the Ganges, we sat in awe and wonder. And I want to tell you the scene that was right in front of me. If you've been there, you know the scene, but let me just replay it from my point of view and then relate it to what we're going to talk about today and to impermanence. The first thing I noticed 50 yards to my left, or 100, I don't know, 50 to 100 yards to my left, there was billowing smoke coming out. And I noticed that there were individuals carrying wooden pallets, one on the front, one on the end, and with a white sheet over bodies, dead bodies. These bodies were taken to the edge of the river and lit on fire right in front of all of us. As a Westerner and as someone with a Christian background, etc., this was very foreign to me to see these dead bodies lit on fire. And Sally and I just sat there, and within an hour or two, very short time, this body was a mere pile of ash, and it was swept into the Ganges. Coming downstream right in front of us, probably 30 yards away, there were pilgrims, locals, baptizing themselves through the valley, through the ashes of death, literally being reborn. Shouts of ecstasy filled the air. There was a lot of bright colors in India, as you well know, and it was such a contrast. They were literally being reborn through the ashes of death of these dead bodies that were coming through. And then another 50 yards down river to my right, there was an army of people, men and women, doing the most mundane task of the day. Like literally, one of the ones we all hate, the laundry. They were scrubbing white linens and doing the laundry. So you had life, death, and rebirth right in front of you. And I, again, as a Westerner, grew up in the Western United States, a background in Christianity, etc. This was a very visceral experience for me. And like I said, I came back to myself and remembered something that is very true, at least to me. I think it's true for all of us, but I'll just speak for myself. And that is that this crazy existence that we call life, this living and breathing in 2026, this was about 8 or 9 years ago now. I think it was 2017, so 9 years ago. But we're living through a never-ending cycle of life, death, and rebirth, both on a macro level, which we won't talk about, and also the micro. Our breath mimics this. The rising and the setting of the sun shows us. Nature is always trying to show us what is, the reality of what is, the changing of the seasons. So, what does this have to do with AI and life in 2026? I'd be curious, and feel free to jump into the chat here. And I think that humanity follows the same cycle: life, death, rebirth. And it's not all bad. This is how evolution happens. This is how we transform. Where do you think we are in the cycle for humanity? What does a check in with your body? Take a breath for yourself, feel into it. And where does the collective feel like it's at? With the dawning of AI and in the age of AI, with obviously the political discourse, the questions that we feel in our hearts and minds, the changing of institutions that we're so used to. I'll just say for myself, it feels like we're entering a period, I'm saying collectively, of death here, of change, of transformation. And if you've hung out with me at all, if you've read the book at all, you know that I believe that AI is a cosmic mirror to us, to humans, to humanity. It is reflecting back to us our dysfunctional patterns at scale, reflecting back to us who we are, what we've become, and causing much more of us to ask questions around intelligence. What does it mean to be intelligent, to be human? What is different between my intelligence and the intelligence that we're now creating via AI or via machines? And we have an opportunity here to face this transformation with ease, love, and grace, or to, grit our teeth, hold on with our fingernails, you know, fight each other about it, get caught up in our differences, highlight our differences, and so to speak, let's say, go to war, either literally or metaphorically, with the reality of what it means to be alive and to be embodied in 2026. I just want to remind you that change is the only constant. And so, impermanence, this is a Buddhist teaching, but impermanence is a fact of life. And we are living through a highly transformational time. What I talk about in the book is the death of the old game inside of us, what I call the old game. And this is the game that all of us on this call have been playing for most of our lives, generally speaking. It's this game of accumulation, this game of the more I can do, the better. Doing, doing, doing. And we've left our being by the side. What we've forgotten is that the quality of our doing is completely impacted by our being. So if we leave our being behind, if we get too connected to the doing aspect of things, I think we lose our way. Let me tell you how I lost my way and how I kind of came back from that. And then I'm going to open it up for questions. Again, in the book, I tell a little bit of my background because of some childhood trauma that I experienced, because of the family that I grew up in, the culture that I grew up in. We're all wounded. No one grew up in a perfect family. No one has a perfect family. My kids do not have a perfect family. I am, wounding them unintentionally. So all of us have traumatic backgrounds to one extent or another, some more than others, no doubt. But because of the way that I grew up, I felt like I had to do a lot in order to, let's say, exist, to kind of earn my right to be. And so what I did is I poured that into every possible worldly success metric you could imagine. And frankly, as a 49-year-old guy here and on the other side of this kind of, honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed by my resume because you could look it up or you may know a little bit about it or not. It doesn't matter. But I built large company after large company. I won award after award. I was a leader in my faith tradition. All these check boxes of doing, none of which were bad necessarily, by the way. What was bad is that as I climbed my little mountain of success, as I call it in the book, I didn't do it with my being. I was not present for a lot of it. And I didn't treat fellow travelers, other people like yourselves, my friends, my family. I wasn't patient enough with them. I was climbing. And if you couldn't keep up with me, like, we'll catch you on the downside. We'll catch you, you know, later. I had lost some of my being. I wonder if any of this resonates with you, whether you've built companies or not, whatever you've done, we become so attached to our doing that we've left some of our being behind. What I say in the book is that when I got to the top of my little mountain of success, whatever that is, the the harsh reality is this. This is the direct quote. There was nothing but a cold, howling wind. Only void, more void on top of that. In other words, all of my doing had not answered my questions. All of my achievement had not caused me to be more. So, why do we do this? And why are we doing this in 2026? Why are there so many people that are feeling burnt out, tired of this old game, completely overwhelmed? We are more prosperous than we have ever been, yet we're also more fearful. We're more, I'm putting in quotes, connected than we have ever been, but we've never been more lonely. So, what are we doing wrong here, or what's wrong? I would posit and say that we have left a lot of our being in our addiction to doing. So, what does this have to do with AI? To me, it has everything to do with AI. Because as machines become better and better at doing what we have been used to be, doing, they're better at a lot of parts of our jobs already. What are we left with? We're left with our being. So, as our individual and maybe collective identities face this, I'm going to say death, because a lot of our doing is taken away from us, we're left with one place to turn and one place to go, and that is to go inside and to turn inside, which is to not look outside for answers or validation or success or accumulation, but to turn inside and to look for the answers that have been there all along, but that we have neglected, forgotten, or lost touch with because of our climb to the top. So, this is why I say in the book that AI is a mirror. It's going to remind us of this. It could exacerbate it. And I would say that right now, it's generally still speeding us up, when in essence, I believe its point is to slow us down, to slow humanity down, and to remind us that it is in the beautiful mess of being human and being alive where the richness of existence is found. So, this is what's been on my heart and mind lately. This is what I'd like to kind of set the stage with for us today. And I'd love to just ask before we jump into questions, Patrick's going to lead us in some questions that have been submitted. I'd like you to just sit with that feeling, the internal feeling, to look inside and to remember that it is in your being that you find your essence. It is in your being that you have worth. It's not in your doing. As long as we are embodied and human, we will have enough doing to do. We will meet like this. We will talk. We will write. We will eat. We'll take care of our families, on and on and on. But all of your doing is affected by the being that you bring to it. I want to remind you of that today. I want to recognize your being, say, like namaste to who you really are and what our reality really is. And acknowledge the fact that, in my humble opinion, um, the obstacle becomes the way here. And it's through the machine or through AI that we actually have the opportunity, humanity has the opportunity to be reborn back into the essence of our being. So, with that kind of closing, take a breath together, and I'll turn it over to Patrick for any questions that we might have.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. We had a bunch of great questions submitted ahead of time. I reached out to a few of you to see if you'd be willing to come on camera and kind of ask your questions live and help kind of facilitate more of a discussion and conversation here. And so I'm going to start out here with Brandon Hoyer, who he's an HR manager with Visible Edge. So grateful for you to be here, Brandon, and I'll just kind of preempt or prompt one question that you had asked that I think was really pertinent and interesting, and then we can kind of obviously you can expand upon kind of what you meant there, and then and have a conversation with Jeff on it. But you had asked like, how have you personally come to find a healthy balance between AI adoption and kind of drawing lines in the sand, if you will, where you decide not to use it. So, like, when do you use AI versus not use it, and kind of that healthy balance?
Thanks, Patrick. Brandon, it's good to see you. Jump on and put in your own. It's good to see you. Yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for having me here today. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so really where for me that is like I don't see, like you brought up earlier, like this death process, and like I very much what speaks to me is that like we're asked to die before we can really live, like that kind of lower self or what have you. And so I don't see AI as like world ending, although certainly unfortunately it could bring about through um, some AI invasive maneuvers with warfare. It could bring about physical deaths. I don't see it as kind of dualistic or binary. It's like do or don't, but how do you use it? And one of the things that I saw in my time that really spoke to me was somebody mentioned that only the ability to an individual or only to the degree that an individual is able to consciously enter a prompt will the answer be what one intends it to be. So in other words, there was like this element of like the human being in this conscious act thinking through ahead of time what he or she wants. And to the ability to do that and be present in that moment, you're going to get something better than just the trash that you might get if you just quickly throw something in and hit enter. And so as a final kind of tease or further, I guess fleshing it out a little more for those here today, like of what I meant by that, it's like I believe I need to use AI both from a financial need, like I'm a working age individual, and it doesn't seem like I can escape that, but also I don't I don't see the point of not engaging with it, but finding a middle path. So that's really my question to the audience is what that looks like for you.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. It's good to see you. I appreciate the question. I mean, you brought up another great Buddhist teaching, which there are great teachings in all of our various faith traditions, but you brought up the middle way. And I think that this is important to remember. Let me just clarify also, I don't believe that AI is going to bring about, physical death. For a lot of us, I sure hope not. Actually, the truth is no one knows, but I don't believe that. I don't think that will be the case. And when I talk about the death that I was talking about, I'm talking about a death in like an identity. So I think that the middle path, Brandon, that you're talking about is one in which you engage in the work yourself and then go to AI as a brain buddy or a mind partner. It's kind of like I'm a father of four, so I have a son that's in high school, and it would be easy for him to have AI do most of his homework. We encourage him to use AI because, like you said, most jobs of the future will be working with AI in some form or fashion. So it doesn't make sense for us, for ourselves, all of us on this call, or for our children or grandchildren to bury our heads in the sand and act like this isn't going to happen. This is happening. It is what is. How do we work with the machine to become more human? So I would look at it in that lens. How is the machine bridging me to human connection and not taking me away from human connection? How can the machine get in touch with myself, my spirituality, my essence as Brandon Hoyer, and how does it take me away from that? And so I think a lot of that is about doing a lot of the work yourself first and then going to AI again as a like thought partner and brain buddy. That's how I use AI. The truth is actually I use AI kind of in two forms or fashions. I was actually in Whistler, Canada with Eckhart Tolle this last weekend. So as my wife and I were driving up, I would talk to my AI and just say, "Hey, what's the weather forecast? What's happening in Whistler?" Kind of like Google, and it would read back to us what was good. That was helpful. That's kind of the Google easy way to use it, and I think that's fine. It's helpful. But then I don't go back to AI for these deep questions until I have done the work myself and I'm able and ready to work with it in an embodied and conscious way. And this is why, like, maybe paradoxically, this is why we start these meetings with the breath. We start these meetings embodied because it's only, and I say this in the book, it's only in a world where humans have left their bodies behind, they become disembodied, can AI take over in a nefarious, really bad way, like what we spoke about. And so I love your wisdom in the middle way. I think that applies to so much of life. Obviously, technology, AI can become an addiction. It can become our most important relationship. For more and more humans, it's becoming their most important quote unquote relationship. But as conscious humans that are working to bring awareness to the world, we need to use AI in a different way. And we need to realize, like you said, that it will reflect back to us based on the quality of our prompts. And our prompts can only be good in as much as we are present and thoughtful about it. So as long as we do that, I think that AI can be a wonderful tool to assist us, to help us in our work. And again, it's not something to ignore or deny. I think it's something to embrace and in wisdom. So Brandon, it's good to see you. Thank you for your question. I hope that was helpful to you or others on this call.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon, and thanks, Jeff. So the next question we have was actually coming from Dave Ashby, who he lives in between Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, and Lewes, Delaware. He's a learning engineer and instructional designer focused on helping people learn how to think with AI rather than simply rely on it. So definitely a lot of crossover there. So, and Dave is the founder of Cyplex AI. But Dave, I think you had some questions that kind of go right along with what we were just talking about in terms of kind of the growing divide between those who are embracing AI and those who are kind of resisting it a little bit. But if you want to go ahead and ask your question, that'd be great.
Sure, thanks. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Good.
It's
Thanks
good to
for
be with you,
having me.
Dave. Yeah.
I guess it's kind of a question, but more of a reflection. I've been working with AI every day since ChatGPT came out 4 years ago. Um, and I asked a couple questions. I guess I'll go with how how you feel about historically technology adoption has been much different. When the cell phone came out, that was kind of a big deal. When computers came out, everybody was slow to adopt, cautious. I don't know if anybody follows or understands the Gartner hype cycle and where that goes. I'm kind of rewriting that Gartner hype cycle where we have this bifurcation where so many people are just refusing to adopt AI at all. They are just, I'm not going to use it. It's evil. It's going to kill us. It's stealing our artwork. It's stealing our thoughts. And I feel like an evangelist, because I'm trying to explain, no, that it's not what it is. It's what you make of it, which is a lot of what you're saying. So my question is, um, other than just not answering people or just saying, fine, have it your way, how do you like to deal with those conversations where somebody says, no, I'm not using it at all. It's not good technology, or it's going away, or I don't believe in it. I'm just curious to hear
Yeah.
what your feedback is.
Yeah, Dave, I appreciate that question and I really appreciate you being here. It's good to meet you. Thank you. I don't think AI needs our promotion or hype. Um, and I think that again, in the book and in my current life of building a community, by the way, Brandon, I meant to mention this, but releasing a free course called Becoming Wise in the Age of AI. It really helps with prompting. I would encourage you to go through that and everyone on this call. Um, as I continue to try to build, I think it becomes a conscious choice, Dave. And I try not to be I'm going to put in quotes, like a prophet of the future, which could become, it could be really easy here in the age of AI for people to try to determine how it's going. But let me just share one thought in that vein. Even though I'm saying up front, I'm not trying to be that. You could definitely see a bifurcation of humanity coming, right? You can feel it. And you could feel that there might be a small percentage of humanity that just goes away from technology or refuses to use AI. And I think that's within their own free human choice to be or to do, of course. So on one edge of the spectrum, I think you'll see that growing. And if anyone on this call chooses that, I think that's a personal choice. The other edge of the spectrum, and then we'll talk about the middle way, the other edge of the spectrum, and this is what's scary, I think, Dave, and I don't know if you have children and this is especially maybe poignant for younger people, but you could see a world where a significant portion of the population, when I say significant, I'm saying, double digits, more than 10% of the population, almost lives a disembodied life. Like they really only live in this digital world. They think the internet is the world. They forget almost that they're embodied. They forget that like nature is right outside our doors, that awe and wonder exist in the natural world. And so they live almost completely in this digital realm with AI as companions, business partners, romantic partners, and they lose touch with being human and what it means to be human. I think that's actually the more dangerous and scary part of this, is that we lose a portion of humanity, and especially the rising generation potentially, into the metaverse or into this digital world, into the machine, let's say, quote unquote. I think what's much more wise, Dave, and I think this is where your question is pointing, is taking this middle way, this acceptance of what is, realizing that AI is happening and going to greatly affect all of our lives now and into the future, and determining what our role is in that future with AI. And in order to do that wisely, we need to certainly, for again, I have 4 children. I need to mirror what I want my children to do. So I need to be an example of what I want my kids to be. So if they come up to me and I'm distracted on AI or scrolling or whatever, that's not what it means to be a father. It's not what it means to be a present human being. That's a bad example. And we've all done that. So, we've all been caught like that. And so whether the adoption cycle is different, I guess I won't answer, Dave. What I will say is I think it's going to be more extreme on both ends. There will be those that just go completely away, and there'll be those that get lost into the machine. And this community and myself, my writing, I'm writing a second book right now, so it's fresh on my mind. The second book that I'm writing, it's how to flourish as a human being in an age of highly intelligent machines. It's kind of a roadmap or a guide to that. How do we use AI but not be consumed by the machine? How does it help us become more conscious, more aware? And like I've said, to lean into our humanity. I actually think that the greatest differentiator for leaders, for the rising generation in the years and decades to come, will be in their humanity. It will be the humans that lean into their being that are really differentiated and that are real leaders. At least I hope, in business, in politics, and in otherwise. This is what I'm working towards and hoping for and talking about. And so I don't know about the adoption curve. I do think it will be more extreme, and I do think it is up to us to model wise use of existing digital technologies and certainly AI. And that's what this community is about. I don't have all the answers. I'm going to speak the most today, I guess, because it's my book. It's the posts. I'm out there. I have a very unique background for what I'm doing now, but I don't have all the answers. That's what this community is about, is kind of figuring it out together. And like I said, there's nothing I'm trying to sell or plug here, but we launched a free course a couple weeks ago that is trying to help guide people in being more conscious in AI. We have a cohort of individuals that are getting together and discussing these ideas more in a roundtable forum. So it's less about Jeff. In fact, I try to be quiet, and it's more about coming to solutions with the group. So, anyways, this is what we're building and trying to figure out. I hope something that I shared was, helpful in that regard, or for someone on the call. So I appreciate the question, Dave, and thanks for being here.
Great. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Jeff. The next one, I think, kind of switching gears a little bit, but a lot of what we've talked about. But I like to jump to, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it completely right, but I wanted to jump to Philippa Perrimon. She's the co-founder of Share Digital Wellbeing Studio and founder of The Bridge, a kind of think tank for the facilities management industry. But you had some great questions that you submitted kind of around AI and kind of how do we value still the invisible work, that makes organizations viable. And so I just would love to hear some of your thoughts and questions here if you want to come and share.
Thanks very much. Yes, it's lovely to be here. And hi from the UK, because I am, as will become very obvious as I talk, I'm from the UK. And
We love
I've
it,
been
Philippa. Thank you.
I've been listening, and yes, I do think I'm about to flip things into a different direction, but hopefully a useful one. Because I really love, Jeff, that you use the term flourishing, because it's a word that I'm quite passionate about. I'm really interested in the relationship between technology and human flourishing. That's the relationship I feel is going to determine the direction that we go in. And I've had so many discussions today. It's been a heavy day of listening and talking. And AI as a discussion seems to focus on being faster, cheaper, scaling, and efficiencies and dashboards when it's in a work context. And I find the work context incredibly important for us to discuss because we all spend a lot of time working. And I'm beginning to wonder whether we're not paying attention enough to the things that don't show up on our dashboards. So throughout my work, I've identified that there's a layer of invisible work. Invisible work holds everything together. Say there's a person who notices that problem before it becomes a crisis. A colleague who notices that someone who's just started is a bit shy, a bit nervous, and so really works to make them feel welcome. A manager who spots potential where perhaps it's not been immediately obvious through the recruitment process. So my question's really about these qualities of stewardship, care, judgment. I can sense a slight smile coming from you, Jeff. These are important, right? And so my question is, if we are using AI and in particular automation to speed up visible work, automate visible work, what do we do with the chance that we might lose the invisible work? And that work will make organizations and communities resilient. That's the buffer we have. And then just very closely and related and broadly on that, wisdom surely is about knowing what matters and about protecting the things that matter most. And my worry is we can't measure those as well as our proxies are being measured, and we're missing it. Very interested in your thoughts.
Oh, Philippa, thank you for being here from the UK. It's great to hear your accent and voice, by the way, beautiful. And I love your framing of this question. The invisible work is what really matters. I think that's what you're leaning towards and saying. I think you know that in your heart. And you're trying to hold on to it because you know it's what matters, but we're optimizing it all out or at the risk of doing that. Amen, like sister. Like wherever you're working and what you're doing, and all of us, we need to be a defender of invisible work, which is, I love the term, but what I would call it is the human work, the humanity. Because what I hear you talking about, this is all about what my second book is about. It's about these soft skills of being human that we've neglected or taken for granted that are coming back to us. So, all I can say to you and to everyone on this call is to be an evangelist in your place of work, in your family, in your faith community, in whatever community or organization you're in, for this real invisible human work, because it's the work that matters. We get hyper efficient, and we see this on social media right now, or even in our work. We see these like efficient and glossy, like presentations. They're almost too perfect because they've been done by a machine. They've lost their humanity. They've lost their realness. I think of like the Velveteen, is that what a rabbit that like got rubbed and used to death and its ear was flopping off. And that's what made it real. Because we are embodied humans, we know what grief feels like. We've all felt it. We know what it means to be scared, to not know. We know ecstasy and joy on the other side. And this informs all of our invisible work that we do. We can notice, I think you said the new hire that has such potential but is maybe lacking confidence or whatever the case may be. And we can mentor and, dare I say, like, love that person. Those are things that AI can't do. No matter how glossy a PowerPoint, no matter how efficient or sexy an answer is from AI, it's not human. And it's in this human touch where the real magic happens. And again, this is how I think the obstacle, quote unquote, of AI becomes the way here for us. I hope that it turns us back to this real invisible work, which is the work of the soul. It's inside of us. It's not outside of us. It's inside each one of us. It's in that real human work that that's what we're here to do. And I think, unfortunately, I think through a lot of pain to come, I think that a lot of humanity, a majority of humanity, I don't know, we'll see, maybe just the 20 of us or 50 of us or whatever is on this call, will remember that and we'll lean into that. And some things are worth our very best efforts, no matter the outcome. No matter the outcomes, some things are worth our very best efforts. So even Philippa, if everyone in your office is hyper focused on efficiency and having the machine, you know, you can be a sound of a human voice of reason. And that's what this community is about, is remembering that it's in our humanity that the beauty of being alive can be found. And, you know, this is easy to talk about on a call. This is harder when the rubber meets the road. And all of us face those instances every day where we can focus on human flourishing or on human division and destruction. And obviously, I'm encouraging us to move to human flourishing and to focus on that. So thank you, Philippa, for being here. And those are my thoughts. Maybe, Patrick, if we have time for one more, I'll promise like a 1 to 2 minute answer if you want, or do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just real quick. I know there's other people that are wanting to jump on as well, but Lewis, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, you had a great question about kind of really getting to the heart of kind of what some of this means.
Exactly. And I only just met Jeff last week, and I'm already halfway through your book, Jeff. Thank you.
Oh, thanks,
And I
Lewis.
only just met Brian about a month ago, and I just got his book, and that's my next one. But I want to ask both of you two wise, successful doers, how for each of you, the being coming from your heart in not in instead of your head, but leading from the heart instead of leading from the head. So that when the words we speak aren't heard and understood with our intelligence only, but are also felt. That's a huge thing I needed to learn, which is why in the last 40 years, in my work as a straight white man, needing to learn how to bridge the gap from heart to heart with people different than I. That was new for me. My ethnocentrism was my greatest weakness. So that's the short about me. I want to hear from each of you. How have you discovered your heart to lead and then to do so that we can use our privilege to serve, and have it feel mutual at the heart level?
Yeah, thank
Jeff
you,
and
Lewis. I
Brian.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that. It's good to see you again. Brian, do you want to take 1 minute real quick on that? I want to be aware of the time. We'll be wrapped up in 6 minutes. So, Brian, just real
Yeah,
quickly.
I think, Lewis, it for me was a very personal um, realization that I might have ended my life at one point, and in that I've discovered what life really is.
Thank you.
And what I will add to that in 1 minute, and then Patrick will throw it back to you. Thank you, Brian, is that, and I think I've mentioned this before, but one of the ways to think about AI is intelligence in search, a form of intelligence in search of a body. We are embodied, and there is so much wisdom to be found within our bodies. And so much, our bodies are constantly talking to us if we have ears to hear. And so this is why, like in this meeting and in all our meetings, we start with this kind of embodied breathing practice so that we can remember that although none of our bodies are perfect, and like Brian has good hair still and I don't, why is that? We're always comparing. It's in our bodies where so much wisdom is to be found. And our bodies are a blessing, no matter what shape or size they take or whatever. And so I think it's in practicing being embodied. And we do that through, the breath, through meditation, through flow activities in nature, through whatever the case may be. We can remember what a blessing it is to be embodied. And I think, again, this is another example that this community can set as more and more of us become disembodied, living in a digital, fictitious, let's say, even more illusory world than maybe the one we're currently living in, this digital world. We can remember that we are embodied, we are grounded, we are on the earth, and there's so much to be learned through that. So that would be my quick answer.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Lewis.
Thank you, Lewis, and thanks, Jeff and Brian. Well, just in the last few minutes we have here, I'm going to just turn it over real quick to Matt, and Matt's going to introduce a couple people that are going to speak to some things we have going on and just their experience. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, first off, thank you everyone for being here and for your presence and just being together. I'm just really touched by the discussion and the questions. Jeff made mention to a couple of things. One, the free course that we've launched. So Brian has gone through that course. He's just going to share for a minute or so about his experience. And then after Brian, Emily's going to speak. We also launched our paid community where we have a call each month and some practices with an online community for those that want to go deeper and kind of practice together in community. Patrick's put the links up in the chat for anyone that's interested. We encourage you to check either of those out, whatever kind of calls out to you. But Brian, if you want to take a minute and talk about the free course, and then Emily on your experience in the community to close us out. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you all know Jeff talks about AI as a mirror. And I got that at two levels before I took this course. AI became my constant companion when I was writing my book, and it mirrored me in the research questions that I asked and the fact that I didn't trust its answers without verifying them. It also became a brainstorming partner, and the questions I was asking mirroring what was important to me as I was thinking about this book. And then I took this course, and what just blew me away is that the course taught me how to use AI as a mirror for my being, for my very essence. And I will turn it back to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Over to you, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. This has been great as always. Yeah, so like Matt and Jeff were saying, there is a group where we have about 10 of us now, or 12 of us meet once a month. And what I've discovered in probably the past almost 4 years I've been working with AI now is that AI is almost never the real topic. The real topic is usually us, right? It's usually us. It has to do with humanity. It has to do with wisdom. It has to do with trust. I call it empathy. Brian talks a lot about intuition. But it's really what kind of people we want to become as technology reshapes our world, I think is the bigger question. And over the last several months, I've found myself really wrestling with questions that are much bigger than technology, software, productivity, questions about meaning, questions about identity, about work, about community, about kind of what we owe each other as human beings as we go through these technological changes. And so, what I appreciate about the group that Jeff has put together is that he's created a space where these questions can be explored, not through fear, but through curiosity and reflection. And we can all really dig deep and not do so with a ton of noise in the conversation. Everybody's talking about what AI can do, but a lot of us are, not really looking at the responsibility that comes with that power. And this group is looking at the responsibility, which is very important. This was a really important group for me today. I love that we talked about a lot of things. As someone that comes from a Jewish perspective, I'm drawn to the idea that wisdom has to grow alongside of power, and technology can increase our capability, but it can't tell us what it's like, what's worth building with that. So I think we need to look at how we treat each other. And that group that Jeff has put together and Matt and Patrick have really crafted is about community and what matters with the technology and what we're building. And so where everything seems to be moving fast and accelerating, this gives us the chance to really slow down and have these meaningful conversations that are more about trust and wisdom and empathy and intuition and resilience through the human experience. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Brian. Anyone who's interested, we'd love to have you on the course or the community. And Jeff, turn it back to you for anything else before we let everyone go.
Now, everyone have a beautiful summer. Stay in touch. Stay in touch with us. Stay in touch with your bodies. And, we'll see you in the fall. We'll see you when we pick these free community gatherings back up, and, get in touch in any other way that you want to over the summer. But it was great to be with everyone today. Thank you for taking the time. I know everyone's busy. Love seeing you.
Okay.
See ya.
Thank you.